Donors are first-time givers. You may turn them into volunteers. Because a donor comes to you generally as a result of a special event. A dinner, a golf tournament, an open house, something. A friend asking him. The trick is to get a donor to become a contributor. A donor may not necessarily share your values or believe in your cause. He may have given you the money because you were a pain in the neck and he wanted to go home. A contributor is someone who understands your values, who believes in your cause, and wants to help you achieve your mission.
And they can't really become a contributor unless you're effectively communicating.
Absolutely. Doesn't happen automatically. The vast majority of income for these organizations
Or in small donors.
small donors, a couple $100 a year, maybe $1,000 a year. And even the organizations don't understand what motivates people. When they go back, when they talk about their contributors, they always talk about their big dollar contributors. So I said to her, how many donors do you have that have given you a couple $100 a year for the last 20 years? She says, we got hundreds of those kind of people.
That seems like that's where a big opportunity is. He should be fishing in that pond.
And I said, how often do you talk to these people? He says, we never talk to them. We just send them a letter once a year and they send in their check and we forget about it. Those are the people that you want to talk to because they're the ones that leave you large amounts of money in their will.
Even if it's only $68,000, that's a large amount of money.
Yeah. So even the way they evaluate their contributors is still skewed to how much money they gave us, not for how long they gave it, or did their contributions grow over a period of time. Building relationships is a critical key factor in developing major gifts and contributions. The two most misunderstood parts of the nonprofit sector by people who belong to these nonprofit organizations are the function of the board and how you raise money.
What is the function of the board and how do you raise money?
The board, all organizations have a mission statement. Very few have a mission statement for the board. The board has a set of specific responsibilities that it owes the agency. It owes them fiduciary oversight, which is a legal requirement.
That just means that they make sure that the checks go in the right account and nobody's taking money they shouldn't
Right. That's it.
be.
It's
Okay.
the only thing they can be held responsible for.
Right.
But they also have a direct responsibility for planning. The mission of the organization, the strategic objectives, where it's going to go and how it's going to get there. They have direct responsibility in developing a sustainable, diversified, growing revenue fund. Not necessarily that they need to go out and ask for money or give it themselves, that would be nice, but they have a direct responsibility in managing the process and make sure it takes place.
If you talk to this guy at Midnight Mission, he might even know more about this than you, but he would certainly listen to what you have to say, because this is exactly what he was talking about his board does.
Right. They have responsibilities of developing long-term relationships with what the organization determines are going to be their key donors, their key contributors. And then they have a long-term responsibility for their own board development.
You mean
To evolve the board.
getting new members who have some capacity that they don't have?
That's right. Constantly evolving, growing, making the board more competent to do these things. And of course, they have a responsibility to mentor the executive director who is their employee. It's a rarity to find a board that understands that. Because, for some strange reason, organizations think that board members are born with a board gene. Most board members go on boards
Because
their friend is on the board. Or maybe they're in a particular business and that they wanted someone from that business recruited. Maybe it's a lawyer.
maybe they
or
want contacts.
they want contacts or whatever it might be. There are reasons. And a lot of people get onto boards. They become first a volunteer. They work in the organization. They come up through, you might say, come up through the ranks, and they're asked to be on the board. But that's a rarity too. Generally, for these smaller nonprofits, $20
you would
million,
Okay.
$20 million a year or less
In budget.
in budget. Board members generally recruit new board members, and they generally recruit them
From their church.
from an environment where they feel safe. Business associates, church members, went to the same school, neighbors. Sometimes you'll set some targets. We want someone with some political connections.
Or we want somebody with an MBA, or we want somebody who has a JD, or
Right, we want someone from Bank of America. Sometimes they'll do that. Big problem in this sector are uneducated boards. Not undedicated or boards that don't want to work, but they're uneducated.
Is there a particular field in social enterprise that holds the most opportunity for advancing the social contract?
I'd say the health service providers.
So starting a hospital or a clinic or something.
Hospital, clinic, even I would classify the rescue shelters as health service providers.
Okay.
No Limits is a health service provider.
Please tell us what microfinance is and how it works.
Microfinance is interesting. It first became popular in this country in the late 1970s. It was the Grameen Bank in India.
Dr. Muhammad Yunus.
Right. What's more interesting, it wasn't his idea.
No, but he took somebody else's idea and
Did it?
put the
It
pedal to the
It
metal.
actually started in Appalachia in
Oh.
the late 1940s.
Oh, wow.
And it was designed to break the traditional poverty cycle of women. I joined these two boards, one right after another, two different organizations, because they had worked out a technique that got women to be more independent. They understood the psychology and sociology that had to take place. And what we did, we lent them generally about $150 to $300 to start some sort of profit-making business. Or a group of women could have gotten together and started a group-type business, like a bakery or
A partnership.
And it was based upon a group of 10 women. And each of the 10 women assumed the responsibility of all the other women in the group. So that if one woman was failing, the other 9 would come to her assistance. And if she failed, they were responsible to repay her loan. It was all based upon repaying the loan at with a very low interest rate. So they understood the money was not free. And it was very successful. About 90% of the loans were repaid. In the last part, when I was with them, I came out strongly that our position of only aiding women was wrong.
Because it's gender biased.
It's gender biased, and what it did, it created a population that hated what was going on. The men became angry. They were alienated.
Were you able to convince 10 men to join the same kind of business circle as you just described?
We were able to convince 10 men to join, and we were able to convince groups of mixed men and women to join.
Great.
And though I wasn't there long enough to see what happened, my guess is their success rate will be as high as the others. I think there was a illogical belief to believe in a generalization that all men would simply drink and eat the money.
Can you remember a moment when you had an epiphany, perhaps, and you decided that service was going to be a major aspect of your life?
Yeah, I think it occurred after I retired. I guess Patricia and I got into discussion saying, okay, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was 65. I had extensively traveled, so I had done most of the things that I had wanted to do from a materialistic point of view. I guess I came to a realization that for the balance of my life, I wanted to try and do something that had an impact on my society, an impact that I felt was positive. So I joined the Executive Service Corps. I started tutoring students at the local grammar school, which I do 1 day a week. Became a founding member of our neighborhood council system. LA has an official system of neighborhood councils. Some of them are very good, some of them are testaments to how thin of an era of civilization is. But overall, I came to a decision that I wanted to leave something positive. But I also found out it's a lot of fun.
Do you have a position or title on your neighborhood council?
Oh, I'm just a board. We have 25 board members, so I'm a board member. I was one of the original founding board members. I've headed up some committees over the years.
I'm going to describe for you two hypothetical viewers. One of them is like you, an educated guy, successful, maybe even lives in this very neighborhood. Maybe wife and kids, maybe not, whatever, but very socially active, busier than a one-armed paper hanger. But they've never done anything to support anything other than their own narrow self-interests, including their wife and children as their self-interest. And there's another person. Maybe they live a few blocks south of here. Maybe they aren't so educated. Maybe they are struggling in their life, maybe even serially unemployed. It's all they can do to get dinner on the table each night. Again, they've never done anything for anyone outside their own narrow self-interest. Why would each one of these people want to be of service to something other than their own self-interest?
I really do believe it, that we all want to benefit society, that we want to leave something positive, that we want to create something that moves us forward, and that ultimately will have an effect on tomorrow. I think if you talk about that to people, show them that even a small amount of individual effort can have an impact. Something as small as taking a half hour a week and tutoring a 5th grader at the local elementary school will have a significant impact on the future of that student.
Not only that student, but everyone who knows them.
Everyone that knows them. And that half hour a week, in many cases, can mean the difference between falling out of high school and ultimately graduating.
College.
Or beyond, whatever. So that even a small incremental contribution to the community can have an impact. And I believe if people see that what they do does have an impact, that it isn't a waste of time, more and more people will volunteer. I think the other issue is that a lot of people don't know what volunteering opportunities are out there.
Which is going to be my next question. If they like what you just said, can you offer a low commitment? Because taking on a 5th grader is kind of a high commitment, okay, to start with. You know, you're basically promising this kid you're going to stick with them at least a semester or longer.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we want a low commitment, non-threatening, get your toesies wet kind of service project that each of these people could be involved in.
We have a local food bank. Could you volunteer for a half hour a
Or an
month,
hour.
or an hour a month to work at the food bank?
Or even once.
Once. Our neighborhood council sponsors several community cleanup programs a year. Would you join us on a Sunday for an hour? And we'll clean part of the neighborhood or work on a park.
Pick up the garbage on Pico Boulevard, something like that.
Which we do. And the mayor has a once a year service day where people go out in groups and do things. Where we're failing, and we fail as a neighborhood council, we don't do a good job of communicating this. We don't do a good job of communicating the cause that we would like to support and what the benefits would be. So, for whatever reason, we've become a very insular society. I even see it in my own neighborhood. And part of it is technologically driven. It's funny. When I used to do I still do the gardening. And I'll be working out in front.